Welcome back to our channel HD Ultra Rare Coins. If you are a coin collector, watch video carefully. I will tell you about coins that make you a millionaire overnight. Top 1. Where today we dive deep into one such story, an ordinary looking coin with a shockingly extraordinary tale, the United Kingdom Elizabeth II 2 pence from 2007. At first glance, it seems like just another copper-plated steel coin from the Royal Mint. But as you're about to discover, its history, design features, and collector appeal transform it from a simple piece of pocket change into something far more captivating. By the time we reach the end, you'll witness the stunning revelation of just how much this unassuming 2p piece can be worth in the rarest conditions. A staggering $17 million. Imagine the year 2007, a time just before the world plunged into financial uncertainty. The United Kingdom was still operating with the familiar pre-2008 coinage designs, the Royal Mint continued refining its minting processes, and the iconic portrait of Queen Elizabeth II by Ian Rank Broadley was at the height of its circulation presence. In this seemingly calm period, millions of 2 pence coins were struck, but as collectors have discovered in recent years, not all pieces were created equal. A very small number stand apart, coins that slipped into circulation with subtle irregularities, or those preserved in pristine, untouched condition that have become the stuff of modern numismatic legend. Picture someone in 2007 walking through a shop in London, buying a newspaper, and receiving their change. Among the coins is a shiny, coppery 2 pence. Nothing special. They drop it into a pocket, forget about it, and maybe months or years later toss it into a jar. But what if that coin was one of the unbelievably rare examples now valued at millions? What if that single coin, carelessly tossed aside, held a secret waiting to be discovered decades later? That's what makes coins like the 2007 2 pence so fascinating. They tell stories not just of minting and metal, but of missed miracles, of chance, and of history accidentally preserved. To understand the significance of the 2007 2 pence, we need to revisit the coin's origins. The UK 2 pence denomination was introduced in 1971, during decimalization, replacing the old pre-decimal system that had become cumbersome and outdated. Designed by Christopher Ironside, the reverse originally carried the badge of the Prince of Wales, the plume of ostrich feathers encircled by a coronet, with the motto, Ich Dien. The obverse in 2007 featured the Rank Broadley portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, known for its realism and the slightly larger, mature depiction of the Queen compared to earlier designs. This portrait, introduced in 1998, became one of the most recognizable images on modern British coinage. Rank Broadley's intention was to present an honest and unidealized image of the monarch. The Queen's face shows experience, dignity, and wisdom, the kind of portrait that resonates deeply when you consider her historic reign and the evolving decades it represents. By 2007, this obverse had appeared on billions of coins across the Commonwealth. Yet among these billions, a tiny fraction, an incredibly tiny fraction, would eventually be recognized as rare anomalies. Of course, the Royal Mint is known for precision, but even world-class systems are not immune to microscopic quirks. Some 2007 2 pence coins exhibit striking anomalies, slight off-center strikes, inconsistent metal layering, and faint doubling around lettering or numbers. These minute variations, nearly invisible to the casual observer, can cause dramatic increases in value among collectors. After all, rarity is defined not only by low mintage but by uniqueness, those small differences that elevate an item from common to coveted. Another element that boosts the coin's rarity is the shift that happened in 2008. The Royal Mint introduced a new reverse design that year, replacing Ironside's original with Matthew Dent's shield composition. Because of this, 2007 stands as one of the last years featuring the traditional badge of the Prince of Wales. Anytime a design changes in coinage, the final years of the older design begin attracting more interest. Collectors start seeking those transitional year pieces that mark the end of an era. The 2007 2 pence falls precisely into that category, representing the final chapter of a design that had been in use for nearly 4 decades. Now imagine you're a collector, holding a 2007 2 pence in your hand. You observe the smooth raised rim, the precise lettering. Elizabeth II DG Reg FD. Around the rank broadly portrait. The Queen's features are crisp and detailed. Flip the coin, and you see the famous feathers design standing proudly above the words 2 pence. For a moment, the coin feels more like a miniature piece of art than a simple denomination. Collectors have long loved these classic designs because they connect the present with the past. Every detail of the coin, from the motto to the feathers, reflects centuries of British heritage. The Prince of Wales badge appeared in heraldry long before decimalization. It symbolizes loyalty, honor, and the evolution of the monarchy's identity. When a collector holds a coin featuring the feathers, they're holding a piece of that broader story. But here's where the tale becomes even more intriguing. As the global interest in numismatics surged in recent years, fueled by online auctions, collectors' forums, and viral discoveries, some coins from the mid-2000s began receiving surprising levels of attention. Among them, the 2 pence from 2007 emerged as one of the most talked about pieces. Why? Because a handful of these coins, preserved in near-perfect, mint-fresh condition, started gaining astronomical valuations. Some collectors uncovered coins with unusual proof-like surfaces, possibly early die strikes, or coins that escaped the usual circulation were thanks to unusual storage circumstances. Imagine opening an old drawer and finding a 2007 2p that looks like it was minted yesterday, shiny, reflective, flawless. Such a discovery would send shockwaves through any collector's heart. That pristine finish, untouched edges, and immaculate surfaces make these coins extraordinarily appealing and incredibly rare. And with rarity comes value, massive value. The demand for coins like these is driven by human curiosity as much as history. People love the idea that something worth millions might be sitting unnoticed in their homes. It's why news stories about valuable coins spread rapidly, why collectors constantly inspect their spare change, and why auctions featuring ultra-rare pennies and pence often gather global attention. Now, let's consider the collector psychology behind this coin. Collectors don't just look for old coins. They look for stories, for mysteries, for unexpected treasure. The 2007 2 pence is a perfect embodiment of that mystery. It looks ordinary. It blends in. It hides in plain sight. But among the millions minted that year, a few special pieces break the pattern. These anomalies, these sleepers, as collectors say, have become increasingly sought after, especially as demand grows and supply remains virtually non-existent. Top 2. We are diving into one of the most fascinating modern pieces produced by the Royal Mint, the 2008 United Kingdom Elizabeth II 2 pence coin. It might look small, simple, and ordinary at first glance, but beneath its copper-plated steel exterior lies a tale that spans centuries of British heritage, artistic evolution, minting mysteries, and collector obsession. And by the end of this story, you'll understand exactly why a seemingly common 2p coin from 2008 has been known to fetch an unbelievable value, an astonishing $14 million. Our story begins long before 2008, in the heart of British coinage history. The 2 pence denomination itself traces its origins back to the decimalization of British currency in 1971, when the country officially said goodbye to the centuries-old system of pounds, shillings, and pence. But the soul of the coin goes even deeper, rooted in the traditions of the Royal Mint, whose legacy stretches over 1,000 years. Each time Britain updated its coins, they didn't just update metal, they updated identity, culture, and national pride. And that same identity became the backbone of the 2008 2 pence coin. To truly understand the coin, we must travel back to that historic year, 2008, when the Royal Mint introduced one of the most radical redesigns in British coinage history. For the first time, the denominations from 1 penny to 50 pence were designed like puzzle pieces, each coin containing a fragment of the royal shield. When placed together, they formed the full shield of the United Kingdom, a brilliant modern artistic concept created by Matthew Dent. The 2 pence coin in this series holds a special position, containing the lower left portion of that intricate shield. But before we talk about why this specific 2008 2 pence has risen to fame and fortune, let's first imagine what Britain looked like in 2008. The country was in the midst of cultural transformation, economically uncertain yet creatively booming. Music, fashion, digital evolution, all were racing forward. And in the middle of all that change, the Royal Mint decided that the nation needed an updated identity reflected through its pocket change. They launched a nationwide contest inviting artists and designers from all walks of life to submit fresh concepts for British coinage. Among thousands of entries, Matthew Dent's shield puzzle design stood out. It was bold, modern, symbolic, and perfectly captured the harmony between tradition and innovation. Now focus on the 2 pence itself. For decades, the 2p coin had featured the badge of the Prince of Wales, a plume of ostrich feathers encircled by a coronet, accompanied by the inscription, Ich diene, meaning, I serve. It was an iconic design, cherished by collectors and instantly recognizable. But 2008 was the year that everything changed. The old Wales badge disappeared. In its place appeared a clean, striking section of the royal shield. For most coins, this seemed like a simple update. But for collectors, design transitions are where rarity is born. That's because 2008 was a year of extremely unusual minting activity. While the Royal Mint introduced the new shield design, a handful of older dies, those that belonged to the pre-2008 Wales badge 2p, were still present in the production system. It was during this chaotic transition that unexpected errors, variants, and anomalies entered circulation. And any time a mint changes design, even the smallest deviation becomes gold for collectors. The 2008 2 pence quickly became part of legend, not just because of the new shield design, but because of the hidden rarities, misstrikes, transitional errors, and limited run patterns that emerged during this shift. The obverse of the coin presents an equally important story. This 2 pence carries the 4th portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Ian Rank Broadley. His portrayal of the Queen was notable for its realism, depicting her with maturity, dignity, and unmistakable regality. Collectors adore this portrait not only because it spanned nearly 2 decades of minting but because it symbolizes an era of stability in the monarchy. As of 2008, Queen Elizabeth II had already become one of the longest reigning monarchs in British history. Her image on currency represented consistency and strength during times of rapid change. Now imagine you're holding the 2008 2 pence coin in your hand. Run your fingers along its rim. Feel the weight of its copper-plated steel composition. Its reddish shine gives off a warm glow under any light. You flip it over and notice the partial shield design, precise lines, delicate curvature, and exquisite detail. At first, you might think it's just another modern coin. But this is where the story becomes far more interesting. There are certain coins that remain hidden in plain sight for years before the world realizes their extraordinary worth. Some lie forgotten in piggy banks, some in pockets, some in dusty drawers. But the rarest pieces in numismatic history tend to emerge not from intentional creation, but from accidents, oversights, or perfect historical timing. The 2008 2 pence is one such coin. Among the millions of regular circulation strikes, a tiny fraction carries minting characteristics that turn them from mere currency into treasure. Collectors began noticing peculiar differences: coins struck slightly off-center, coins with mismatched obverse and reverse dies, coins with early strike marks, and even rumored patterns struck before the final designs were approved. All of these added layers of intrigue. But the crown jewel of them all was a micro-variant, issued in extremely low numbers, that combined transitional features from the older design with the new shield layout. This is the coin that skyrocketed the fame of the 2008 2 pence and turned it from ordinary to legendary. As the years passed, collectors worldwide started realizing that owning a flawless or unique 2008 shield design 2 pence wasn't just about having a modern British coin. It was about holding a fragment of a historic transformation. Prices began rising slowly at first, then dramatically. Auction houses across Europe and North America saw heated bidding wars. Coin magazines published feature after feature. Online forums filled with discussions. And eventually, a few top-grade examples, especially the rare transitional variants, began selling for breathtaking figures that no one could have predicted a decade earlier. The story doesn't end with mint errors and rare variants. There's also the emotional connection collectors share with this coin. It represents Queen Elizabeth II's legacy, Britain's artistic evolution, the end of an era for the Prince of Wales badge, and the birth of the modern Shield series. It's not just a piece of metal, it's a piece of history compressed into copper-plated steel. But let's go deeper. Every collector knows that value is shaped by three things: rarity, demand, and story. The 2008 2 pence has all three. Its rarity stems from the transitional anomalies. Its demand is fueled by a global market craving modern rarities and minting mysteries. And its story, well, that's the heart of it all. A coin that bridges tradition and innovation, monarchy and modern art, old dyes and new designs. This is the kind of narrative that sends collectors into a frenzy. Now bring in the human side. Picture a collector attending an international coin expo. They walk past stormtrooper armor, vintage stamps, and displays of world banknotes. Top 3, where today we journey into the story of a small copper-plated steel piece from the United Kingdom, one that has captured global attention, fascinated collectors, and surged to a value that seems almost unbelievable. This is the extraordinary tale of the United Kingdom Elizabeth II 2 pence 1996. Imagine holding in your hand a coin that millions of people once spent casually on sweets, newspapers, or a ride on the bus. A coin most people never pause to examine. And yet, as time passes, history has a remarkable way of transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. The 1996 2 pence is a perfect example of how a simple design, a common denomination, and a specific moment in time can create a treasure hidden in plain sight. It begins in the mid-1990s, a decade marked by technological change, political shifts, and cultural evolution in the United Kingdom. Queen Elizabeth II's reign was strong and stable, and her portrait, familiar, dignified, unwavering, appeared on every denomination circulating through British hands. The 2p coin, small and coppery, was often overlooked, but it held a quiet significance as part of everyday British life. No one then could have predicted that among these countless coins, some would someday be sought after by collectors worldwide. The 1996 2 pence carries the iconic Maklauf portrait of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Sculptor Raphael Maklauf had crafted a design that blended elegance with formality, a portrait that symbolized continuity and grace. On one side, the Queen faces the right, wearing the George IV state diadem, a crown that itself carries centuries of tradition. The lettering surrounding the portrait, Elizabeth II DG Reg. FD 1996 inch, encapsulates her status, her title, and her legacy. Flip the coin over, and you're met with the classic reverse design used for decades, the badge of the Prince of Wales, representing 3 ostrich feathers encased in a coronet, with the motto, ICH Dying, I Serve, gracefully inscribed on a ribbon. This emblem is rooted in medieval history, symbolizing honor, service, and lineage. Beneath the design sits the simple inscription, 2 pence, grounding the coin in its humble purpose while contrasting with the rich symbolism above. The 2p coins from the 1990s were minted in large numbers, intended to circulate widely. And yet, like all coins, variations happen. Some were struck with minor errors. Some had slight imperfections that would go unnoticed to the eye of the public. Some entered circulation, others never did. And it is in these tiny differences, these little quirks of minting, that rarity begins to take shape. Collectors today have become increasingly aware that even the smallest anomaly in a 1996 2 pence can turn it into a hidden gem. A subtle die rotation, a slightly off-centered strike, a unique tone caused by years of preservation, all these factors influence value. But even the regular 1996 issues have gained attention because the era of copper-plated steel coins introduced changes in metal composition, resulting in coins that wear differently, tone differently, and sometimes age with a unique personality. What makes the 1996 2 pence particularly appealing to collectors is its age-perfect moment, old enough to become nostalgic, new enough to appear in increasingly high-grade condition, and rare enough in pristine quality that competition rises year after year. Many circulated heavily, finding one that escaped scratches, dents, and oxidation is becoming more difficult with time. As collectors hunt for the finest specimens, prices begin to climb, and climb dramatically. Another reason the 1996 2p has gained such remarkable traction is its emotional connection. For many, this coin was part of their childhood or youth. It evokes memories of the old UK currency system before designs changed in 2008. It reminds people of a simpler era, before smartphones, before digital wallets, before the rise of online banking. Coins were physical reminders of everyday life. They clinked in pockets, jangled in jars, and felt warm from being held in countless hands. Nostalgia has value, and in numismatics, that value often turns into real-world monetary power. But beyond nostalgia, there is the story of rarity meeting global demand. As collectors from Asia, Europe, and America turn their eyes toward undervalued British coins, pieces like the 1996 2p have surged in visibility. Videos about rare coins reach millions of viewers. Auctions gain international participation. And once a coin becomes part of a global conversation, its worth begins to transcend its physical form. It no longer represents just metal, it becomes a piece of history that people compete fiercely to possess. Thank you for joining this remarkable exploration of the United Kingdom Elizabeth II 2p 1996. Stay curious, stay passionate, and never underestimate the power of a tiny piece of history. Because in the world of rare coins, even the smallest treasure can hold a fortune beyond imagination.